Hey everybody, it's me, Remy the Comic Book Poser, and I'm here today to welcome you to enter the Posiverse. I feel like shit with some kind of sinus infection and other crap, but I still need to tell you what my top 5 books are from last week's New Comic Book Day, so you can pick them up this week's New Comic Book Day. So find out what my top 5 are after this.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Alright, before I give you the full top 5, I will show you my 2 honorable mention books for the week. Miles to Go number 2 from Aftershock was pretty good. And then I also kind of like Scumbag from Image. I know, seeing what everybody else has said about this, folks were split on the book. I thought they were both mildly entertaining, but I definitely liked books better. So coming in at number 5, from Aftershock, Dead Day number 4. This is by Ryan Parrott with art by Evgeny Bornyakov and Juancho, with lettering done by Charles Pritchett. The woman and her ex-husband have descended upon the house. That's where we ended book 3. And it's a question of what happens next. So a lot of interesting things kind of go down in this book. First, we see Melissa and Jeremy come home. He was shot at the end of book 3, and the question is whether or not Daniel can help piece him back together again. You see kind of a good philosophical discussion between the two men about whether or not one took Melissa away from the other, and you get a really creepy shot of what he looks like with the biker helmet off. The cult thing that's going on in the woods is also really interesting because we get to meet like the I think they call her like the zombie pope, and there's a good conversation about Brennan learning that indeed his actual father is back on Dead Day to see them, and then everything just escalates from there. That the folks that Jeremy or after Jeremy are there to kind of exact revenge, and I'm not going to spoil what happens there at the end, but it does get relatively intense. I like that book a lot. I don't ever see it falling off the list. That I think Parrott and his team are doing something pretty good. Coming in at number 4 from Marvel is Iron Man number 2 from Christopher Cantwell with Kefu on the art and Frank DeMarta. I think it's Frank, it's not Mike. Frank DeMarta on the colors. I was skeptical about this book in the same way that I was skeptical about Doctor Doom, and then Cantwell got his hooks in me on that one. I think the creative team on this one is really firing on all cylinders, and I like both meeting who we think the potential villain is in the first couple of pages, and then y'all know that I'm a sucker for arcade, so seeing how Tony becomes Arcade's foil very early on is something interesting that happens. We start to see kind of the growing existential threat of the villain throughout the back end of the book. It's starting to get action-packed and intense, and I'm definitely along for this ride. So, big fan. Cantwell does it again. Coming in at number 3 from Mad Cave Studios is Dryfoot number 2. Even though I'm sad that I found out that Jared Lahan loves the comic burrito more than he does me. So this is an interesting just kind of through issue. We know that the kids have decided in book 1 that they are ready to pull off a heist against the drug lord in Little Havana. But we start to get some good background information in terms of the relationship that, these kids have before the present day. I like the lovely shot of somebody passed out with drool. I can really relate to that. But we start to see kind of the intensity go up in terms of them working towards their heist. And I remember when I interviewed Jared, he said that book 3 is where we would all kind of get pissed off at him based on what happens in the story, and then he hopes to reel us back in by book number 4. And I've got a couple of theories. So I'm excited to talk to folks who have read this and want to see if we can compare notes on what we think's going to go down in book 3, since that's the shit hits the fan book. Coming in at number 2 from Boom Studios is Something Is Killing the Children, number 11. It's James Tynion, Werther Dell'Edera, and Mikel Muerto. This book is a hit. We know that everything had gone off the rails in Archer's Peak, that they were not able to successfully contain the threat of the monsters, or of the small child monsters. And we see, kind of some surreal scenes of the folks of Archer's Peak now kind of seeing a little girl torn in half in a public setting. We know that the other guy who is there from the House of Slaughter attempts to see if he can be enough of a meal to have the little monsters, baby monsters, become more visible instead of being able to phase in and out of different realities. And as we continue to meet with the rest of the House of Slaughter to see how they react to what's going on in Archer's Peak, we definitely start to learn the power of the overall organization. And in probably guessing that book 12 is the end of the second arc of this, I think it's going to build to something both massive, and I'm going to be pissed that I'm going to have to wait a couple of months to read book number 13. But Something Is Killing the Children continues to just be that book to me that is hands down amazing. That I liked this individual book so much that I picked up not just the Virgin variant that I think is also a Frisson, or for this individual issue, but also 2 of the white sketch cover or blank sketch cover variants, because I think I have an idea of someone that I want to commission to do some art on them. And they'll get here soon because I picked them up from my gal, the Comic Katana, who just did her Sunday to Sunday Build a Pile claim sale, so I should have them by the end of the week. So if I love Something Is Killing the Children so much, then it's going to have to take something huge to kind of unseat it for the week, right? So coming in at number 1 is Big Girls number 3 by Jason Howard at Image. Book 1, we got to see kind of the origin story of both the phenomenon of the large girls and then the kind of mutated entities that we see on the cover of this one. Book 2, we kind of get the notion that there are people still who are kind of connected to the humans that may still be lying behind these creatures. And book 3, we really get a clash of both worlds in here, that we see a very, very good merge of both the origin story of the big girl, who is the title character, in terms of where Ember comes from, and then also kind of updating some of that into the modern world. And if you haven't been familiar with this, it's a trait that is passed from fathers into their children, and the big girls will just morph into large women who are non-threatening, and then you will have boys who pick up this that will mutate into kind of these large mega creatures. So we get more insight into Ember's backstory, we get more insight into kind of the resistance movement that is growing, we get a lot of killer action, but then we find out halfway through that while Ember is fighting one of these creatures, that it actually communicates with her and asks for help. And that just adds a whole new wild dimension to what's going on in this story. I think Jason Howard is creating one of my favorite new titles of 2020 here in the final third of the year. and I can't wait to see what comes next. The Big Girls is always one of the books that I want to read. Big Girls is always one of those books that I want to read in the top third of my stack, and this is the second time that we've got Big Girls that it's come out as my pick of the week. There were a bunch of other good books this week, but I'm trying to hone myself into 5, thus the 2 cheating. Honorable mentions. Nothing really I hated this week, nothing that made me wanna drop it. But if you're interested in knowing the dark side of the coin, the things that I didn't like, then let me know down in the comments below. Hopefully I'm feeling better later in the week. I'm gonna look infinitely better in tomorrow's video when I do my pull list, only because I filmed it on Sunday before I started feeling like I got hit by a bus. So as always, thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.